So good morning, everybody. I'm Nancy Dufford. I'm the Executive Director for PEN, the Pasadena Education Network. And I'd like to welcome you to the first of what will probably be a number of PEN virtual programs this year. I'm going to first introduce Laura Diaz, who is our Director of Parent Engagement, in case there are Spanish speakers on the line.
Si hay hispanohablantes y necesitan interpretación, la tenemos aquí. Tienen que ir al globito de abajo del screen y seleccionar español.
So for those of you who are new to PEN, we're a network of more than 1,800 parents who support and send our children to Pasadena Unified School District schools. And we support parents in 3 distinct ways. We help them with their transition to kindergarten and secondary schools by introducing you and other parents to your public school options. Once in a PUSD school, we help parents engage more effectively to benefit not only their own child, but all children. And we bring parent voices to PUSD leadership so that they consider it in their decision-making and encourage and advocate for educational equity. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is separate from the school district. So if you learn anything today, we hope that you'll consider going to our website to sign up for a free PEN membership and also consider making a donation so that we can continue to provide programs throughout the school year. We know that this is a challenging time for families, and especially those of you who are new to PUSD. So incoming kinder parents, we feel for you. We hope that this session helps answer some of your questions and gives you a better idea of what school will look like when it starts on August 17th with 100% remote learning. Today, we will only be talking about remote learning. So if and when PUSD enters stage 3 and starts looking at adding the hybrid model, I expect that we will have a program to explain that to you. So what we've done is that we've taken the common questions that you submitted when you registered, and they have been incorporated into PUSD staff presentation. And then at the end, Susan Schwartz, who is PEN's program director, will ask some of the questions that might not have been included in the presentation. After the meeting, if you still have questions, feel free to email us or slide that will give you information on how to contact us at our website at penfamilies.org. I do want to thank Collaborate Pasadena.
Nancy, you're freezing up a little bit.
We could have so many of you on the call. Excuse me?
Oh, you were freezing up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Is it better now? And I also want to remind our speakers that because we are providing simultaneous translation, to speak slowly and clearly, so that way our translator has an opportunity to translate. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Elizabeth Blanco, who is the Chief Academic Officer for Pasadena Unified School District, and thank the staff for all of you being here too today.
Well, thank you, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. If you're new to PUSD, welcome. And if you've been with us for a while, you know that we are striving to make sure that we're listening to parents. And, you know, we have a lot of changes going on, but we are considering the feedback that we receive from the community as we try to accommodate and make changes to follow all of the health rules. So, you know, our primary goal for your child and every child is health and safety, and for our staff as well. So there are 3 phases. Dr. Reynoso is going to show us the presentation. You can go to the next slide. There are 3 phases that we're looking at for the future of PUSD starting now. We're in phase 1, where there is very high risk for children to attend school. So it is going to occur in remote learning. We have worked very hard to make sure that our teachers will have the tools and the training to deliver the best possible experience for you and your child, because I know at kindergarten age, it is you and your child. So I have some tips from Stanford that have been translated into multiple languages that I will share with our communication officer, Hilda, and put them up on our website for you as well. So phase 2 is medium risk. Learning is still remote. We may be able to return some very small groups of students who really cannot access their education through remote learning first. That's still in the planning stages, because at this time we're unable to allow anyone to come to campuses. But for the most part, and the medium risk learning is still remote. And then for phase 3 is low risk, and we plan to reopen in a hybrid that we've presented to the board. If you want to get a sneak preview on the hybrid, you can look in the last board presentation, but that will not happen until conditions are safe, for our staff and our students. So I'm sure Nancy will invite us back when we get closer to hybrid. There are some metrics now set by LA County Health Department, where there has to be certain levels of hospitalization and disease spread for us to even consider that. So at this time, we are in phase 1 and learning will be remote. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Reynoso to begin talking a little bit about the structures. And with Mrs. Hill. Dr. Reynoso is our Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services, and Mrs. Hill is our Director of Curriculum. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Blanco, and thank you so much to Nancy Dufford, Susan, Laura, and all of Penn for inviting us to come and join with you this morning. Welcome to Pasadena Unified School District. We're so excited that you have an incoming kindergartner. This is definitely a unique way to start the year, but I can promise you that we have dynamic teachers who welcome our students, and I know that you will feel that. Yes, it will be different, but with your partnership in this work, we know that we will be successful. So what I'm going to share with you today is I'm going to only focus on what Dr. Blanco mentioned was basically phase 1 and 2 when we're in the remote stages. I think it'll be better for us to understand what that feels like, how to create an environment at home, and then be able to be properly ready when we transition, when we come back to a hybrid, when health and safety precautions allow us to do so. So in remote learning or distance learning, you've heard them be interchangeably used. We are going to begin our year with our students participating in 240 minutes. At this point, we are in negotiations with our labor partners, so the word suggested is where we are at. So I just want to make sure that no one's holding tight to anything until we can actually broadly communicate that with everybody. But we are hopeful, we are proud of the work that everybody has contributed to this, all departments and all of our labor partners, our teachers are dynamic. They have provided so many great insights to how this work has been developed. So in SB 98, they do give recommended time in which you would have your student participate in this learning. As a kindergartner, obviously in a remote setting, it will be a bit different. Please note that we are highly committed to making sure that there is daily live synchronous action happening. But I will say to you at this point, some of the questions that we received from Penn is we are not going to have all of our students sitting in front of a screen for 240 minutes. That 240 minutes is really used in a variety of different ways that I will share with you in just a moment. There will be time where there will be daily personal time where students may be working in small groups with the teacher. They might be working on some work, some activities that the teacher has given to them, and then they'll be called back together. This is also a time where our teachers will be doing different forms of differentiation and individualization. This is how we get to know our students. This is what we would be doing if you got to be with us in front of us. And this is the type of instruction that will hopefully be very meaningful, and again, in a very different way. We are looking at in the phase 1 and 2 where we will be having our students participate Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with a schedule schedule. We want the schedule to feel as if they are in school. We want you to feel as if your child is in school. Our pre-K also, if anyone out there has anyone interested in participating in our early childhood, we have a wonderful pre-K program that will be offering 120 minutes suggested again per session. And we also have TK, which is inclusive of what happens in the kindergarten model as well. And those are programs that we have for different age groups. So we invite you, if you know of anybody who is wondering what to do with their young child, please bring them to our family. We are ready for you and ready to engage with you. Our suggested start time for each day at the elementary level and for your kindergartner is going to be 8 a.m. This again is suggested. And McKinley, if you are going to be participating in the McKinley family, that will be approximately 8:15. And that our dismissal time during this phase will be approximately 12:55 p.m. All right, so what you see before you is a sample. And the reason why we're calling it a sample is, as I have mentioned, we are in negotiations, and we have been working hours and hours and hours to make sure that what we present and what is finalized is something that is meaningful for everybody, for all parties. And that is something that really is powerful of what we do in Pasadena. We really want to make sure that everyone that is participating, from staff to student to family, really finds value in the work that we're doing. So what I really want to kind of draw your attention to first, and then I'm going to work in some components to see how this would feel for your young child at home, is that I'm going to draw your attention to just what they would experience over 2 days, and then those 2 days are repeated. For example, on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, they will travel and start their day in what we call a daily class huddle. This is synchronous. This is a time when they all come together and the teacher sets the child up for success in the day. They want to know, what are the expectations of the day? What are we going to be doing today? Do any of you have any questions? Hey, I've got some great updates. Hey, I've got some connection times for all of you. Variety of different ways to create a meaningful community at the start of the day. This has always been a successful practice, and we continue to do so in this type of setting. We then would travel through the week. On a Tuesday, students are going to be working on their targeted language if you're at one of our signature dual immersion schools, or in English language arts if you are not at a dual immersion school. Then on a Wednesday, they would then be working on math. And then they would flip again, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, doing the same thing. So we're not covering all core content every single day. We feel that it is beneficial for students to be able to have a time where they can be very concentrated on a particular area. Once we get done with that, then we would say, okay, students, off you go. I'm going to be pulling in Susan, Nancy, and Elizabeth, and Juan, and we're going to be sitting down and having some group time. We're going to have some get to know you time, and all of that will be set up in advance. We are working, as my good colleague, Ms. Hill, will be sharing with you in a moment, about how we're going to be using that, the platforms in which our students will be engaging. They are very systematic. Once your child has used it a couple of times, they will be a pro, and I know so will you. So don't worry about anything that you're not used to yet. We will get you through that, and our staff will be prepared to transition your child through this process. We then have built in times such as recess and nutrition. We want your child to take a break. We want our staff to take a break. And then we would go into things on our campuses, such as specials. We call them specials because they're really important to our day. We need our students to participate with physical education. We need our students to participate in the arts, and a variety of different things that happen through the kindergarten years are really beneficial to building the entire essence of every child. And we really want to make sure we're tapping into that in this type of an environment, just as we would if we were on campus. And this also will be synchronous. So you will have an instructor or the teacher walking and doing great activities. I know one of the questions that came up is, are there going to be any hands-on activities? Yes. This is one of those areas that you're going to get to participate in. There will be art, and we're going to be putting together art packages and supplies for your child to be able to do that. We definitely do not want our children spending all of their time in front of a screen. It is not developmentally appropriate, and we already know that. So our kindergartners will have different ways in which to engage both with hands-on and off-screen as well as on-screen. We then would go to the rest of the day, the second part of the day, which would be on a Tuesday, your social studies and your writing components. And then on a Wednesday, your science. And this is fantastic. We have so many great ways in which we can engage students in science. And I will tell you this, I have spoken and I have so many great testimony from our teachers, kindergarten teachers from this past spring, lessons learned. What do I need to do differently? How do I utilize our online services, but also make it in this way of play-based as well as interacting? And I will tell you, our teachers learn so much from our students. And so that is a real benefit and something that will be different as we get engaged in this type of transition into the new year. And then we will have lunch. We'll take a break. This allows for you as a parent, allows me, I have 3 children in PUSD also, to sit down. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna sit with my kids. I'm gonna have time with my child, my children, and make sure that, you know, we are creating those routines that will be in place when we transition back. And then finally, the day will end with a second round of personalized learning time. This way, then we have more opportunity for students, again, to engage in small learning, online learning, different ways of teachers that might be doing an assessment to get to know your child a little bit better, and really some personalized ways in which we want to really make sure that your child is engaged in that time. So as I've mentioned, we will have different ways in which we want to make sure that the screen time is not the only way. And then I also wanted to draw your attention is one of the questions that comes up a lot is how often will I hear from my teacher and when will they be telling me things? Well, lucky for us, we have transitioned to our learning management platform, which you will hear about shortly. But it's our way in which we will be communicating with you. You as a parent will also have access as a guest to be able to see what's going to be expected of my child. How will I set my child up for success? Or they may be providing you with, hey, this is what's happening this week. They're going to be providing you with the dates in which you need to make sure your child is participating. Invitations, different ways to go through that type of a platform. We find that that's going to be very beneficial. The frequency in which our families will be interacting with our teachers will be through that platform, as well as what we've always had in the past. Newsletters, questionnaires, surveys, lots of things to start the year that allows us to get to know you and who we serve, and most importantly, your child. This is such an incredible milestone for us and for you. So the frequency will kind of come about, probably in the first couple of weeks, lots of communication, lots of transition. This is new for everybody. So we will make sure that we are setting them up. And then after that, feel free to always reach out to our staff. We have a suggested and always a reliable way. We suggest our staff that it's timely. We do know that if it's after hours that we need to allow our staff to take that time. It is their time to be away, but they'll get back to you within a day or so. We do encourage you at any time that you have something that you need to speak to the teacher about. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We invite you, you are our partner. So we do at this early stage, please be our partner. And then we really just want to make sure that it's meaningful on all levels. So again, there will be more information to come as soon as everything is finalized and our schedules are done. Then what you will see to the left of this will be the time in which our students will be participating in these different areas. And again, we will be building the stamina of our students. So as I mentioned, we're not going to have our students sit on a screen for hours at a time. We will be building up just as we would if they were in our classrooms. I'm not going to go into depth on the next 2 slides because they're not appropriate to what we're doing here today. But I know that Susan also has some additional questions that we'll engage in should you have any at the end in the Q&A forum. But I just want to again welcome you to Pasadena Unified School District. We are so excited to meet you and your family. And for those of you who are returning and just have kindergartners, welcome back. We hope you have all been safe and we hope that you all have been well. I'm going to now turn this over to, oh, actually, let me finish one more quick little thing on here that I wanted to share with everybody. I apologize, I got ahead of myself there. Is that, well, what will my child be using at home? How will they be able to properly be prepared? Well, we are ready for you. We have been working since early part of June to make sure that we are securing all instructional materials that your child would need to participate in these types of activities, whether they are hands-on or directed by the teacher where your child would be following along. We will be making sure that your child has a device, a Chromebook. They will have a charger as well. Should you need anything in addition, like a hotspot, there is a way in which that our site leaders will be communicating that with you and how you would proceed with that. We also will be providing you with art supplies as well as some local at the school site supplies for your child to be successful at home. So that's not something you have to go out and do. It's something we're actually going to provide for you. Yes, it will be somewhat limited, but it'll be so that everyone has access to the same thing. So when the teacher engages your child, you'll be able and prepared to do that. As soon as all the distributions are ready, a message, I believe the first wave of communication will be going out this week, just letting you know that we will, our hope is to begin next week, the week of the 10th, not on the 10th specifically, but during that week, and that we will have different staggered schedules. So you'll have a specific date and time in which you will arrive at your school that you are registered to participate in, and you'll arrive, pick up your items, and be on your way for success. Please allow us just to say that this is all in accordance with all health and safety regulations and working with the city and county. So we definitely just have to participate in all of that, and we hope that you will honor that as well. And like I said, Chromebooks, we're working with ITS to make sure that that is prepared for you and that your child is going to be ready for using their own device. It's a very exciting time. I hope they're very proud. We also just ask that once you receive this type of device, as well as your textbooks, that you find a place in your house where this becomes the school place. It may be a small section of a table, it may be a desk that you've provided, it may be the kitchen table, but we ask that wherever it is that you set this up for your child, that you're setting them up for success, that it's a place that will have minimal distractions, but easy access for you. We don't want you to leave your child alone in some space. Really want you to make sure that you have a place where there is going to be powerful internet access, that the child can engage with the student, that you have a nice place where it's bright and comforting if you can, and bright, I don't mean just by sunshine. If you've got lighting is going to be important too, and that we just ask that the Chromebooks kind of remain in those places so that they're safe and nothing happens to them, and nothing gets lost. We really want your child, just as they would be showing up every day in a physical classroom, that when they show up in their virtual classroom, it is just as powerful. So we are here to help you and partner with you on that, but those are some of our immediate requests that we would ask of you to make sure you're ready for them. And we, again, welcome you to Pasadena. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Hill to share about our content and instruction.
Thank you, Julie. As Julie and Liz mentioned earlier, my name's Helen Hill. I do take care of curriculum, instruction, and professional development for the district. So I primarily get to work with the teachers. And this very much goes in tandem with what Julie was just sharing, because we've stated what sort of the parameters around the school day would look like. And now likely you want to hear about how the teachers are actually going to deliver this. I also want to say as a caveat too, I am also a PUSD parent, just like Julie. Mine are still in elementary school. And one of the things that surprisingly my daughter, the younger one, really loved was getting a breakfast tray as her movable desk. And we would station that in her little learning place that she had designated for the week, because trust me, as the year went on, she wanted to move her learning place. So the little nest that I had created for her wasn't very appealing after the novelty wore off, but the movable desk or breakfast tray came with her everywhere she went, and we had a little pencil pocket and everything. So just little things like that to keep them motivated. But back to the teachers. So over the weekend, we were able to publish the distance learning handbook for our teachers. It is a 40+ page document, very comprehensive on the sections that you see here on the screen. But what I wanted to really point out to you as incoming parents, and possibly parents of older siblings who you've been familiar with what the process has been, we are looking at a very different year than what occurred in emergency remote learning in the spring. So in the spring, of course, we didn't really have a lot of understanding about how long this would go, what the phases would be defined as. And quite fortunately this year with, with the longevity of the pandemic, our state has been able to provide us some guidelines. Our county has been able to provide us some guidelines. And there's going to be a lot more consistency across not only our schools, but school districts across California. And so the instructional guidelines here really lay out for our teachers some of the common aspects that, that all schools are really obligated to this year. And as Julie mentioned earlier, much of that has to do with the live interaction. Definitely for incoming kindergartners and truly I'd say even their first and second graders, a lot of that in-person or face-to-face is really important. And when we can't do it in person at the school, we want to be able to best replicate that in an online environment. So that leads us to sort of our start of school practices from this handbook, where we really kind of talk about the mindset that our teachers are encouraged to use when we are designing the classroom this year. And what has been intentionally done is a launch period, which is not unfamiliar to our teachers. We have some on the call that we do utilize for teachers to build community, to set up procedures and protocols for students to become independent as they go on in the year. But that will look slightly different online. But what we're still prioritizing is that amount of time. So what you're gonna see in the first few weeks are a lot of more launch-like activities where teachers are getting to know your kids, getting to know you as the family partners, and really learning more about what each student's sort of comfort zone is on an online environment, camera on, off, things like that, and learning the background of the students' needs so that they can really address them as they go on. But primarily, it's to create a very safe and comfortable space for all of the kids to learn together. The next item that I kind of wanted to talk about is that learning management system. This is a big piece that Julie mentioned that you're going to be able to utilize to really keep tabs on where your student should be and what the communication from your teacher is going to be. Now, of course, we have email accounts for everyone, and that is always, a very valid form of communication. But what the learning management system does for parents is it provides something called an observer account. And it does exactly that. Canvas has a really robust tool for parents in the sense that you can actually observe into your student's account without actually having to log in as your child. You can see the assignments that they're being given. You can see due dates. You can see any messages to and from the teacher. And you can engage with the teacher as well in the observer account. You can keep track of grades or scores, so that might not be as critical in kindergarten. It might just be more about preparing the student for the week, seeing the plan. And so that's something that your school principals will likely be sending out a video or information about how to set up your Canvas Observer account. I can tell you that I did mine last night while driving in the car as a passenger. So, but very easy to set up. It's an app that I just put on my phone, and I will have to go get the code to link my children, but I'm ready to go with that. So, so that's again a really robust way for us to stay in touch. Now, the schedules portion of the handbook hasn't yet been published to the teachers, much like Julie referred to. They'll be out soon. But what you're really going to look for is communication direct from your school, because each school has a slightly different customization. The start time of 8 a.m. and the end time of 12:55 p.m. will still be true for everyone. But within that day, there are some schools that might have multiple teachers working with your kid, music schedules and things like that. So you'll get the exact schedule from your principal about of how your student will move throughout the day. But you can anticipate that they'll begin getting online with a live teacher at 8 a.m. and then being done for the day by 12:55. All right, let me move into my next slide, where I just kind of show you some of the things that we've been working on to support the teachers in how they design instruction for your students. So our curriculum is something that we anchor everything into. And what what students who are returning, if you have older siblings, will see is that we've modified a little bit of the sequence to really allow for more time for teachers to do any of the gap fulfillment or things like that that they may need to with students having been away in the spring. It won't change very drastically for incoming kindergartners, mostly because they weren't with us last year. This is their first introductory year, and so we've really listed out what the target benchmarks are for kindergarten, and they remain primarily the same. What we've shifted, though, is the instructional practice behind it, because the efficiency that people have when they're in person isn't going to be the same until we can really get up and running with the online setup. And so with kindergarten, we really are focusing on more of a project-based perspective. And this is really just excellent practice when we're in a remote situation, because it takes into account that students are at home. They're not in the classroom with you, that there are going to be different procedures that happen in the home for learning than happen in a classroom for learning. And so while you won't necessarily see different learning outcomes expected for kindergarten, that's a good thing, because we're trying to make sure that our students stay on track and ready throughout the entire kindergarten year, so that when we transition into first grade, and hopefully it'll be in person by then, that your students are still on track. I wanted to talk a little bit about the instructional resources. So as Julie mentioned, there are some hard copy materials that we will be distributing to families, and teachers will be utilizing as they get into more of the instruction after the launch period of the first couple weeks. But there's going to be a new tool that's new to all of us. And so one of the things that I really encourage, both from teachers and from parents, is patience, because we are going to be doing things in a new way for everyone, but hopefully in ways that help people understand and digest the information. So ASU Prep Digital is an instructional resource that we have partnered with this year to provide content that is already in a Canvas learning management system, meaning teachers don't have to spend the time that they are going to be using to get to know your kid in instead positioning that to create and write up things that they're going to post online. There are already content units that they can pull right into that learning management system and modify for the customization as they get to know the kids, so that you guys can really hit the ground running and really begin the deep instruction. It's already customized for kindergarten and then every grade thereafter. So what you'll see there is it's already digital. You don't need to pick it up at the textbook distribution, but it will go hand in hand with those hard copy textbooks that you are going to be receiving from our usual PUSD adoptions. The other thing that I wanted to mention in this is we were also really careful in working with the learning management system to create a template that works for early learners. This was a request very specifically for kindergarten, but also for, like I mentioned, our first grade, possibly our second grade students. And so this is something that's we actually pushed out to our pre-K and earlier. And a teacher may, of course, choose to modify it and customize it for whatever their class theme is. But we wanted to share with you that it was an intentional setup so that the navigation tools and buttons are very clear, that it's a very minimal space so students aren't overwhelmed with a lot of content on the screen at one time. That we worked with the Canvas vendor to make sure that it was something that was palatable for young learners. Because some of you out there may already be familiar with Canvas, particularly at the college level. Canvas is well known at higher ed. And so we wanted to work with them specifically to say, hey, let's bring that higher ed format down to a level where all kids can access. So again, no digital platform is perfect, but we have taken some painstaking measures to see what we can do to make it as understandable and comprehensible to a young learner. The final point that I wanted to make is also in getting to know your student, one of the most important things for a teacher is to really know what they're coming in with. And this is something that our kindergarten teachers have done with such expertise throughout the years. Our kindergarten teachers, I almost always say, my hat's off to them, have one of the most difficult jobs in a school system, because they are taking students just fresh as they are, some having had years of preschool, some having, enjoyed some time before they came to school. And they have to take care of all of that differentiation. So one of the pieces that our kindergarten teachers are super skilled with is really assessing. And that happens in formal ways with an actual assessment that might be done digitally or on paper, and also informally, a lot through observation, a lot through just communicating with a student and starting to get a feel for where they are. But what we will say is being online doesn't really give you the full picture of where a student is. I know, the example I always give is my daughter, when she entered kindergarten here at Field, the teacher, fortunately she knew me because we worked together, called and said, I'm gonna just assume your daughter does know her ABCs, but according to this test, this pre-A test that we just gave her, she knows 2 letters. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's no way. But at the same time, what it turned out was she shut down. She was very shy. And because she's meeting a stranger for the first time and the stranger's asking her to do things. And so she decided that she knew A and she knew Z, and that was it. And so I said, that's fine. I want you to go ahead, and I don't want to waste any of your teaching time. You don't need to spend time with my daughter working on B through Y. She does know those. The teacher allowed me to take a video of her doing it with me that I was able to send and then, show that the teacher could go ahead and take care of other instruction. But really what it said to me was our teachers care so much that just in case I never worked with my child and my child really didn't know those letters, the teacher was going to modify her instruction to make sure that my daughter learned it. And I just really appreciated that, because you are taking kids in at whatever level they are, and there is no shame about it. It is just literally, I want to do my best for wherever your kid is coming in. And so assessment is going to be a critical piece, and teachers will be doing this with all sorts of resources. But the reason why I want to front load you with this is we do have a couple digital assessments to try to help our teachers with the number of students that they have. And as parent partners with the students, we're going to really need your partnership in making sure that the students can authentically show what they do or do not know, because it will affect how the teachers choose to design their instruction. And if we unintentionally help our kids and they can do something with our help, it may show to the teacher that they can independently do it, and then instruction gets modified, probably inaccurately, and vice versa too. So we will be actually hosting a few trainings with the digital assessors, the vendor who's of our digital assessor called iReady. We'll be hosting that through the Parent Engagement Center, Parent University, and those dates will come out, and we'll make sure PED has them so that they can advertise for us as well. But we encourage you guys to attend those so that you can really see some sentence starters for how you can help your student if they ask for help, if they get frustrated, but you still want to have as authentic as possible a result so that the teacher can really know what to do for instruction. All right, so with that, let's head into supports. And I'm going to hand it over to, I think, my colleague, Mr. Relas.
Thank you, Helen. Good morning, Penn partners. Can you guys hear me? Let's see.
Yes, we can hear you, Juan.
Thanks, Helen. Sorry about that. My name is Juan Relas. I'm with the Language Assessment Development Department to give you information and supports for our English learners, their families, and our school sites during remote learning. Support for our English learners begins with the initial identification through an assessment called the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, or LPAC for short. We're beginning to plan this. We're going to do this safely as well as remotely. Once students are assessed with the LPAC, services is then initiated through our department. And the assessments are for all incoming students to the district that speak a language other than English. So then during and after our assessments, we then provide parents as well as schools with the information on the English language proficiency level of the EL student. The EL student being the English learner student. A comprehensive list is then shared with all schools in the form of a Google spreadsheet that lists all of their ELs, the information that they did or how they performed actually on the assessment, and so that proper necessary interventions to assist our ELs can be provided. We ensure that all the supports are in place through our department and that the available funds that schools are given are in place so that all necessary resources are used to support their language proficiency. I want to let you know and definitely ensure you that parents are a part of this entire process, being appropriately informed at all times by their school, their child's teacher, and at the school site committees that take place, which are called English Learner Advisory Committee meetings, or ELAC for short. There's going to be a lot of acronyms that you're going to be learning. In addition, our department also sends home a parent letter every fall that lists all the data of the student. The data includes their performance on the language proficiency assessment, also the state assessment, which is called SBAC, but this is an assessment that you won't have to worry about. The SBAC, I should say, the state assessment for a few years. This letter that we send home also includes the criteria that's required for students to reclassify. It's called a Title III Annual Parent Notification Letter. Our department sends this letter out every fall, informing the parents of not only how well the student is doing, but also listing the criteria so that we then can identify what supports should be in place so that the student can excel and also gain language proficiency. At the school site, there are conversations that take place, which consists of the school, the student, and the parent, who is a necessary and crucial part of this discussion. And at the school site, we call them data chats, where an English learner becomes informed on what is needed to reclassify as well as what to do to succeed. Also, it's quite important so that we can ensure that the targeted and intentional support is in place so that we can deliver differentiated and scaffolded instruction for the student. Scaffold in the sense being that there are strategies in place that help the student comprehend, it builds fluency, and also academic vocabulary, which is a necessary part for all students to learn, being that we're going to be learning different words in either math, social studies, science, and language arts. I could tell you that over the past few years, we've had excellent opportunities and success with my colleagues here in their respective department and under our leader, Chief Dr. Blanco, in supporting school site coaches. Teachers and site administrators in providing multiple engaging professional development opportunities on methods and types of effective strategies to use in daily integrated and designated ELD lessons. These same learned and modeled methods will and then can be applied in distance learning. From our department, we also provide additional resources which reinforce the students' learning in the form of supplemental resources that reinforce the grade level learning that they're going to be getting in the respective grade. These resources include applications from Scholastic Reading and another online software program called News ELA. Both of these can be embedded in the Teacher's Canvas webpage and align with the content-specific lesson. Our department also supports schools with requested site-specific supplemental resources, either in the form of textbook, personnel, or software that they may want to use. Another highly effective resource for our schools and is well regarded by our parents has been tutoring. We plan to continue this in remote learning, where we plan to have the services of at least 2 certificated staff members per site, which will provide virtual live tutoring in smaller group sessions, which in turn will reinforce the students' supports and interventions. That's pretty much it for me. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Penn, for inviting me to your meeting and for your time and attention. And I believe I'm going to turn it over now to our Associate Superintendent, Dr. Villegas.
Actually, I'm hoping Dr. Sahakian is on at this time, and then it'll be Dr. Villegas.
My apologies.
No, not your apologies at all. Sorry. I'm not sure he's represented.
Good morning, folks.
Oh, there he is.
Hi,
Hello.
Julie. Hi, Juan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Eric.
Thank you, Penn and Collaborate, for this platform for our parents. First and foremost, Eric Sahakian here, School Support Services. I'll begin with our mental health supports as we start off the new school year. We will continue to offer developmentally appropriate mental health services, which will be delivered by our Masters in Social Work interns. And this is, of course, done by a referral process. PUSD Mental Health Consortium agencies, such as Hathaway Sycamores, DeVille, Foothill Services, will continue providing services to students that are currently case managed, and that will continue to be done remotely. Our team will also provide staff development to school sites on signs and symptoms of possible mental health issues as it relates to students, whether it is anxiety, trauma that's been felt for a variety of reasons, particularly during this pandemic, and what teachers should look out for during their virtual class sessions, and where and how to refer their students. We are working with the Parent Engagement PUSD office, of course, to hold a parent forum prior to the reopening of schools to discuss trauma experience during these unprecedented times and provide parents with tools and guidance on how to address student anxieties, worries, and so forth for not being able to physically return to school at the start of the school year. We'll also provide tools and infographics and short psychoeducational videos that our social work team, along with the social work interns, will develop and record that will be posted on our website for students and parents alike. Very quickly, I'll review some of our supports that are in place and will continue for some of our vulnerable populations, such as our McKinney-Vento identified homeless families. We'll continue with our identification and count of McKinney-Vento families district-wide so that we could identify and target case management services to identify families via teleconferencing. We'll support immediate needs and support in collaboration with some community partners such as Salvation Army, home delivery coordination for home basic necessities with local community partners, again, such as Salvation Army, and online educational presentations for staff, administrators, and the community. Also, for our foster youth students, supports will continue through our Foster Youth Star Resource Center with our immediate staff at the Ed Center. They hold virtual meetings with identified students. We have a foster youth counselor who supports mainly our high school students, so it doesn't necessarily pertain to this workshop in the morning, but the supports are there for identified students. And students that are entering PUSD for the first time, they go through a process called triage, and that's held weekly with our community partners as well as our foster youth supports over at the Ed Center. In addition, our Office of Child Welfare, Attendance and Safety's PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Supports team, will be scheduling one-on-one site visits, virtually of course, in support of mobilizing and tailoring each of our school sites' universal interventions. This also includes our K-8 schools, K through 8 schools, and teachers having access to social and emotional learning materials to help students and support student well-being. That concludes my component. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to our Associate Superintendent, Dr. Villegas. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My understanding is that Dr. Villegas is actually in a separate meeting at this time. So I'm going to ask Dr. Blanco on how she'd want to proceed, because I do see we also only have 10 minutes left.
I did see Vivian on the line. I don't know, Vivian is our coordinator from special ed, would like to just go through this quickly.
Totally, yes.
Excuse me, this is Susan from Penn. I just want to, I want to save a little bit more time. I know we have some parents who have been asking about how IEPs and special educational needs are going to be supported, but I want to make sure we have time to cover some other questions. So if you could just very briefly give us something, and we will put some follow-up information in our Q&A that we post. and send out to all participants.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. So take it away, Vivian.
Totally, yes. Hi, good morning. So just on behalf of Dr. Villegas, he is actually, not able to attend this meeting. And I just want to kind of briefly go over our remote learning plan for special education students. And I know during our phase 1 and phase 2 that all of our IEP services will be delivered and implemented virtually. Just I know some of the parents have experiences in March to May in spring, and that the remote learning plan that crafted by the IEP case carrier, which is a special ed teacher, along with the service providers that depends on students based on their needs. They may have occupational therapy, speech pathologists working with the students on language development. And so all of that service providers will work very closely with the student's case carrier to craft this individual remote learning plan that would be explicitly delivered to a student, and also work with the parent to make sure that parent input and feedback is also included in this remote learning plan. And so all of the IEP services will be developed and delivered remotely. If students actually are working on the IEP goals, the service providers will come in and craft the schedule to make sure the schedule works best with the parent and with the students, to make sure that the IEP goals are worked on, with the students. And it could be done in a group setting, or at times can be individual section as well. And so there are, of course, Chromebooks will be issued to, based on the district guideline, will be issued to students. And so we do also have aides, instructional aides that will be trained to help facilitate and under the teacher's supervision to make sure that they are a support to the students as well. And so there are overall the instructional materials that I know that some kindergarteners, they need some manipulatives and some visual or kinesthetic support that to help them through their either with working with their service providers or with their teachers. So those materials will be the schedules, the staggered schedules will be developed to make sure that those materials can be picked up, and the timeline and all that will be arranged by the case carriers. And so overall, that our special education team has actually launched the our extended school year services. The students participated in ESY extended school year during summer. So some of our teachers have already had the firsthand experience with Canvas and engaging parents through the platform, and materials and lesson plans were actually created in Canvas. So some of our ESY staff, teachers, they have the firsthand experience, and they are very excited to carry down to make sure that when we launch in August, that the IEP services and the goals and everything that can be coordinated accordingly and delivered the services to our students and our families. So I think my part is pretty much done, and then I understand that there are some questions that that will be asked about the IEP services. So.
Okay. I think as we're nearing the hour here, we're going to open up our chat window to participants. Let me just see if I can get that to happen. So at this point, thank you very much to all our presenters. We did have some questions that were frequently asked by people when they submitted their early questions. And one of them was, one of the most common one was, how involved should I expect to be during the school day? And what if my schedule conflicts with when my child has to show up, so to speak, for scheduled learning activities during the day? So particularly for kindergartners, how how present do parents need to be guiding their students through these activities? What if there is a conflict in their own work schedule and they are not able to be there? Will material be recorded? Will they be able to come back and get those things? So if Helen and Julie, if you could speak to that, that would be helpful.
I can kick it off, and then Helen, I know we'll tag team on this one. You know, the best advice that I can give to you is we are going to have a schedule. So, and we're not in a position where every single thing that's going to be shared with the child is necessarily going to be recorded. I think your best line of preparing would be to make sure you're communicating once you know who your child's teacher is to talk to them, is to find out, you know, what's going to happen. What is this going to look like? But we do have a daily schedule, much in the same that we would have if your child was actually present with us. However, there will be some components that the child could attend to at a different time in the day when an adult who is working with them could assist them with. But we do have daily live instruction that the child will need to participate in. Helen, I'll turn it over to you, see if you want to add to that.
Sure. And I actually think, because I see Dr. Baxter on the line, and she's one of our fabulous principals. And so I know she can really speak to that day to day. But I'm also following the questions in the chat. And definitely we've talked about having an asynchronous, or what we call like those pre-recorded or recorded videos that are available, because we know not every kid will be able to get on at the same time. And just so you know, attendance actually is able to be captured by live interaction or by completion of work that they do, even if it's later. So that's not going to be an issue. I didn't get to mention dual language, and I'm so sorry that I completely forgot about that. But dual language is actually happening exactly the same way that you would anticipate. Your dual language teacher would be delivering the instruction. Now, granted, especially for those who are non-native speakers, it will be exactly as we plan it to be, a 90% to 10% breakdown of the day, but they will be receiving their full dual language experience. And now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Baxter to kind of talk about that day experience.
The day for a kindergartner, how exciting is this? I will tell you that one thing that is common throughout all of the teachers and principals that I'm talking to is the enthusiasm for seeing kids again. So that's super, super exciting. So the teachers are working really hard to make sure they build in brain breaks and movement, and making sure that they do things that are developmentally appropriate for kindergarten. And as earlier was mentioned, those art packs, I know that some teachers are adding things into those art packs to supplement, to support kindergartners, and really to make sure that there is a variety of things. Kids are still going to get scissor skills. They're still going to learn how to glue, and they're going to be asked to do all different kinds of things that don't involve a screen. I was recently, this past weekend, at one of our students' birthday parties, virtually, of course, and we engaged in a scavenger hunt where we had to pick many items. It's those kinds of things that I know that the kindergarten teachers are doing, because, and I see some wildcats here in the audience. There are those kinds of things that I know that teachers are doing, and they're talking about, and they're being really thoughtful. We also are having, I know at our school in particular, we're having an online virtual orientation, so parents can realize that those are things that the teachers are building in. Did I answer that for everybody?
Okay. We are at 10 o'clock and we have a ton of questions in the chat. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to try to gather those questions and answers, and we will be sending a follow-up email out to people with additional information. We're going to continue to try to post responses as we have the information on our website. And I'm going to actually just share my screen for a second to close this out. Oops, that was not what I wanted. Okay, so we are going to take the recording of this session and as many answers as we can provide to the questions that are being posted in the chat on our website. We will also email something out to everybody who registered for this meeting and try to get that out in as many ways as we can. And you can always also email us after the meeting at info@pennfamilies.org if you have additional questions, and we will do our best to push that information out to everyone.
Is it all right if I make one closing comment?
I'm sorry.
Oh, may I make one closing comment?
Your audio is coming through kind of strangely.
I was asking if I could make one closing comment.
Sure.
That posted at www.pusd.us/reopening is a public-facing document with questions and answers for parents. We just launched it today. It's in English and Spanish, and so we will send that to you to also post at your website.
Okay, I'm gonna, Liz, your audio was a little strange, but I'm going to post that in the chat and we will share that document out with everybody. Oh, I see Pelin already posted it. Okay, thank you. Nancy, are you still there?
I am still here.
Do we want to
Yes.
leave the chat open for another few minutes? What's your thought about
Sure.
wrapping this up?
We can leave the chat open for a couple of minutes. If anybody's still available, if anybody wants to respond to questions in the chat, they can. Otherwise, as Susan said, we will answer as many of the questions as we have answers to and get them out. And I do want to thank everybody. I know this might be a scary time for you, letting your little one start school, but you know, as you heard today, there's a lot of work that has gone into this and a lot of thought, and hopefully it'll be a great experience for everybody in spite of it being different than we were all expecting.
I just want to, I did just picking up on a couple of the chat questions before everyone has to leave. There was a question about if you have challenges picking up the supply package and the Chromebook on the assigned time, will there be any flexibility or a way to handle that? Maybe Dr.
Absolutely.
Baxter? Or
yeah,
Julia?
I mean, the site, if there's a conflict, absolutely. First thing I said is just to get in the habit of having really productive and effective communication with your site. So if, for example, the date sends out and they said, okay, your date is August 13th at 3:30 and that doesn't work for you, no worries, just contact the principal and we will make adjustments. That is what we do all the time. It is on a case by case, but just know that we have 16,000 students we have to provide this for. And so that's why the staggered schedules have to be provided in a way that's health and safety. So we would have to work with your schedule and work with our schedule because we still can only have so many people come during a particular time. But absolutely, communication is your absolute best friend at this time.
Yeah, and when can you just repeat maybe for people who weren't on the call earlier, and maybe Dr. Baxter, you can speak to this as a principal. When should parents who are registered for kindergarten expect to be hearing from their principals and finding out about their teachers and so on?
Lots of us were talking yesterday and this weekend. So many of us sent out just a hello if it wasn't, you know, full of all of the details and information of start of school. But I know that principals have been reaching out, and I think everyone that I've spoken to has sent out something. So we're excited to welcome kids back. And a lot of us were talking about, do we address the parents or the kids? And so we kind of arrived at, let's talk to both of them. So you can tell in my message, it was very much geared toward kids, but then in my all call was very much geared toward parents. So just trying to grab the widest audience we can. So we're sending things out through Blackboard and then using social media and using our PTAs to kind of spread the word. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have one other, Susan,
sure.
I just have one, if somebody could just address when families might know about childcare or after school options.
So right now, we are not allowed to hold childcare. I don't know if you can hear me any better or what's going on with my audio. So that's been part of the challenge. We were planning and we were told by the California Department of Education to put everything on hold until we receive another management bulletin. We're working with LEARNS and we're trying to find out what partnerships they might be able to have with the city. So hopefully if that's allowed, then we'll get that information out this week. So we're restricted, I would say, you know, in putting forward any plan, because I'm not really sure why the state changed their mind, but that's the direction we received.
Could somebody who knows how Dr. Blanco answered that repeat it?
Yes, at this time, unfortunately, due to state restrictions and updated mandates, we are not allowed to proceed with our child care as we had hoped and had planned for. However, we are working with all partners in Pasadena, being led by both Ree Hudson and Maria Tolliver through PUSD, to find alternative ways in which we can support families. So as soon as that, and that just literally happened a couple days ago. So we, as soon as we have more information, we will make sure that we will have updated information as allowed to do. It really is, you know, put forth by what these management bulletins provide to us, and we have to follow the recommendations.
And if parents have questions about their school, if they haven't heard from a principal or they have questions, how can they reach the principal?
They can email them, absolutely. As Dr. Baxter mentioned, we have asked all principals to begin communications in waves. So it may be a generic hello, and we're so excited about you. As I mentioned earlier in this broadcast, you know, we don't have a significant amount of detail yet, which is why we are providing information in timely and relevant ways. Typically, we would love to send out our opening message and have every ounce of detail, but we're not in that position yet due to different negotiations and improvements that are going on right now. So we, as soon as we have that, but you should be hearing from your principals. And in that, you'll begin to, you know, hear information about when you would be able to pick up materials, and that will happen as soon as the site is ready to do so.
I'm just putting up here just so people can take a quick look. This is the document on the pusd.us/reopening, which is the school opening guide that several people mentioned, Dr. Blanco mentioned. And we will share the links for all of these things with everybody who registered for this and post them on our website as well. So don't feel you have to capture everything that is happening here. We will share it out in writing, so that, including answers that Helen Hill has been typing into the chat. So don't worry if you haven't caught everything. We'll do our best to digest all that and get it back out to everybody where you can easily find it.
And we will explain what happens on Monday, because it is a school day on Mondays.
Yes, it is a school day, Nancy. I wanted to point that out. It is, but until we have approvals on our schedule, we are not able yet to provide what that time frame will be. It will not be as extensive as an 8 a.m. to 12:55 p.m. However, there will be learning expected, and there will be some synchronous and synchronous opportunities for students and teachers. So more to come on that as soon as we have approvals.
Great. Okay, Susan, Laura, any final thoughts? Helen or Julie? Angela?
Thank you, everyone. It's I know it's a little rougher with incoming kinders, but we will do our best to take care of them, and we are always open to communication. So thank you.
Yes, and I just want to echo that we appreciate these times where we can come and share the information that we have ready. We realize this is not always ideal for everyone coming in, but as soon as we have all the information, we absolutely will have everything prepared for you. We just ask for your patience during this time as things change quite considerably, and we have to take everyone's health and welfare into account. And we also want to take your schedules and your life into our account as well. So please know all of that is at the forefront of everything we do every single day. Thank you so much for this time today.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And thanks again to Collaborate Pasadena for hosting us.
Yes, and we'll see you all soon, hopefully in person.